Hey, this is Gerge with the Pragmatic Engineer. It's good to be back. It's been more than 8 months since I last uploaded a video. So what happened? Well, there's two reasons for this. One is I made a promise in a video that I did 11 months ago where I said this. Now we could just spin through all the numbers that I've gathered and look at how the numbers are going from the low 30s all the way to the 50s, 60s, 70s, 100s, all the way to the higher numbers. The above 100, the above 150, and the above 200s. Now we're not going to do this in this video, we're going to do it in one of the next ones. I actually started to do this video, and as I did, I collected a lot of data and I realized, oh gosh, maybe I should build a site for this. So I started to build a site, and that took a bunch of time, and I never got around to finishing that video. It's a silly thing, but it did bug me and it held me back from doing other videos because I promised on this video that one of the next ones would be about this topic, about salaries in the Netherlands for software engineers. But the second reason was connected to this. I didn't have time for this because I started to write a new weekly newsletter called the Pragmatic Engineer newsletter. Now this is a newsletter that is free to subscribe to, but it also has a paid version. People who subscribe to the paid version get it every week or more often, and those subscribe to the free version get it about once or twice a month. I launched this newsletter on the newsletter platform Substack, which is the most popular and probably easy way to launch newsletters, especially if you're planning on going paid. And already it's the #1 paid newsletter in technology, not just for software engineers and engineering managers, but anyone interested in tech. And frankly, this newsletter has been taking up most of my time. This is a newsletter that is very relevant for software engineers or engineering managers working either at big tech or high growth startups, or people who want to know more about what it's like to work here and what are the tools and approaches you need to be successful in these environments. And topics I covered in the past 6 months include the perfect storm that was causing an insane tech hiring market. I wrote about this in September. And just recently, 6 months later, the New York Times wrote about a similar topic, although not nearly as much in depth as I did, but they covered the exact same topics that I talked about 6 months before. And the story that they covered, a recruiter struggling to hire engineers, was exactly the things that I warned that is already happening. So I guess in some ways, my publication is ahead of the mainstream media, like publications that are not really in the middle of where the industry is at. I wrote about how big tech runs projects and why Scrum is starting to become absent from big tech and some high growth startups. Covered best practices to work with product managers as engineers or engineering managers. I went into engineering skill set overlaps for leadership positions. By this I mean staff engineers, tech lead managers, engineering managers, product managers, technical program managers. And I've also been writing a series called The Scoop, where I go into what is going on in the hiring market, or things that are kind of insider information. You probably know about these if you work at big companies or you know people in leadership positions and they tell you what's up. But I make this available for more people to get a sense of how compensations are changing, hiring is changing, remote work changes happening across big tech, startups. I can't promise that I'll always have the latest and greatest information on everything, but you might get some scoop, which is also the name of the column. The newsletter is $15 a month or $150 per year. If you live in countries that are outside of Western Europe or the US, you can email me, and I do discounted pricing for other regions. And a lot of people don't pay out of pocket. This is an educational resource that helps you grow professionally, and it benefits your team and your company if you use some of the approaches. So if you have a learning and development or a professional development budget, chances are you can expense this newsletter, and a lot of subscribers already do. And so why was this newsletter taking up so much of my time? Well, after I launched it, it became surprisingly popular. And I wrote a summary of the first 4 months of the newsletter. I announced the newsletter in August 2021. 1 month later, it was already at 15,000 subscribers and 500 paying subscribers, which meant about $62,000 in annual recurring revenue before Substack and payment processing fees. And I was already sensing, wow, this is off to an amazing start. A lot of people are interested. Now, across 1,000 paying subscribers at only 6 weeks after starting a newsletter, which is a huge milestone because this is the amount that you can kind of make a living off of doing this one thing, which is writing a newsletter. So this was the point where I was thinking, maybe I'm gonna keep doing this and focusing on this and not start a startup that I've been thinking about. And at the end of the year, the newsletter was at almost 30,000 subscribers. So yeah, the newsletter has been my full-time job since September. And then I also had a few other things come up. I started to advise this really cool startup called mobile.dev, which is a company building the next generation of mobile tooling. They're basically building a shift-left platform for mobile development. They're enabling to catch production issues like performance, binary size, and other non-functional issues at the pull request level instead of having to wait weeks or even months to detect them in production. It's a small and an ambitious team. One of the founders is ex-Uber, and I'm spending a bunch of time with them. If you're a mobile engineer, pay attention to this company because you're probably gonna both hear about them. One day you might be using their tools as well. I also did a few angel investment in companies that I was really excited about. Mobile.dev is one of them, Phonoa, a tax automation platform, another, and I have a few others listed on my investments page. And I'll talk more about the concept of angel investing and how I do it in a later video if there's interest. Finally, I started a job board, the Pragmatic Engineer job board, and the uniqueness of this job board is that only companies can list here who score at least 10 out of 12 on the Pragmatic Engineer test. And this Pragmatic Engineer test is 12 questions I put together to get a sense of how healthy or good an engineering culture is. Companies that score highly on this test are probably decent places to work at. Obviously, this will depend on the manager and the team as well, but they're gonna have things like equity for engineers, engineers directly working with other engineers, not through project managers, code reviews, CI/CD, internal open source, technical managers, healthy on-call as a priority, career ladder for larger companies, parallel tracks for managers and individual contributors at larger companies, a culture of feedback, and investing in professional growth as well. Quite a few of the listings have salary ranges as well. So for example, this Raycast posting, it's a remote EU position with 140 to 170K base salary plus equity. And this job board is really geared for experienced engineers and engineering managers and engineering leaders. So feel free to bookmark this site and check back. So now the good news is that now that the newsletter has gone for about 6 months, I now have a rhythm and I'll have time to create more videos. But still, my main focus is the newsletter. But more and more videos will be coming to this channel. And the channel's focus is not changing. It's still gonna be software engineering, engineering management, a peek inside of big tech, also how high growth startups work. And now I can promise for sure that next week in the next video, I will be going through the Netherlands compensation numbers all the way from the 30s through the 40s, all the way to the packages that are above 200,000 and even above 300,000 euros per year. So the channel is back, and see you in the next video.